Alrighty. You wanted the Watchmojo content, so you'll get it, I guess. Here it is. The ranking of all the bosses currently in Limbus Company. Initially, I wanted to do this based on design, but instead, I think it'll be difficulty and personal evaluation. As with any of these lists, feel free to disagree and discuss in the comments. After all, some variations of these bosses are no longer available in their original form, or at all, period. There are 80 enemies, tagged as bosses, according to the in-game files. But some of these are within the same encounter, and some have bloody variants, whether it be Railway, Reflect Trail, or differing story versions. These are not counting abnormalities, each of which is a boss encounter of its own. To keep things simple, I'll be evaluating everything on a per encounter basis. While this does inevitably mean there will be some fellows that pop up multiple times, I'll try my best to condense them down if the encounters are too similar. In addition, I'll be picking the hardest version of each to factor in to the ranking rather than needing to sprinkle various versions throughout. As for what constitutes difficulty, there's a variety of factors, but the main ones are as follows. Is the fight consistent? Can you follow a strategy perfectly and the fight falls over? Is the enemy exceedingly durable? Does it have ungodly resistances or health that drag out the fight? Is the fight dependent on a single clash? Can everything go entirely wrong if you flub that single clash? Is there an opportunity to recover from mistakes? Do you have to play perfect to even have a chance? Do we get to stagger the boss? How difficult is it to upkeep the mechanics? Can we skip the mechanics? Does the boss have damage gates? Aside from that, any other miscellaneous bullshits that we have to deal with, and my personal evaluation. As a disclaimer though, I can only speak on bosses that I've actually fought. Railway is older than 4, I just haven't touched due to starting during Season 4. So some impressions may be purely from the Mirror Dungeon. Anyhow, without further ado, let's get started. Sitting at rank 105, designated as a boss by the game for some reason or another, Camille, the bloody streaming sync fixer. They are ranked here by default because the game doesn't let you fail this fight. No matter what you do, you will clear this node unless you manually exit the encounter or game. You do not need to think at all. A fitting position for scum of the earth like myself. 104. Golden Apple. This is still a tutorial. It is nigh impossible to fail. The game basically handholds you through this fight. The narrative is the main appeal of this one, less so than the fight itself. Just clash it out or unoppose it till it staggers and the fight clears itself, evolving into the Ebony Stem. Anyhow, welcome to the literally who tier. The weirdos that by sheer technicality get to be here. 103. Head Hooligan. This is just a boss rat. Being the bottom of the barrel as it is, you do not notice this cunt's existence ever. 102. Old G-Corp head manager. This fella hurts you more through the narrative than through actual gameplay. At that, it's just emotional damage for Gregor instead. 101. Why do we have an ID for this guy at all with Hongers? If he was any close to how good Hong Lu's version is, he'd actually be a surprisingly nasty threat, but no, he really isn't. 100. Breaking off 100, the casino security chief. This guy exists. Anyhow, my supervisors at my former job were basically this. And let me tell you, they were a lot more bark than bites. 99. A solid combined bot. Okay, these classifications seem like pure bullshit. Who even remembers this thing existing? Let alone this being classified as a boss. Canto 4 is weird sometimes. Maybe it's just the sheer number of encounters. Speaking of which, K-Corp Class 3 Empowered Staff. Now, while these guys can be an absolute fucking menace in MDE above floor 10, they're pushovers otherwise. As a taste of K-Corp brutality, they at least deal some damage. Again, another Honger's ID we get from them. 97. District 20, Eurodivier Captain. Another random stepping stone of a dude. I guess he has more HP than the mobs around him, but it's not enough to even remotely matter. That wraps up the literally who tier. They're all very mob-like, rather they don't have actual names. Moving along to the biggest tier of them all, Easy. While a good chunk of these are definitely arguable, these are the ones I don't pay much heed to at all. A lot of these will blend into one another and bleed together. That said, very few of them should actually give you trouble, even if you just slam the win rate button. As a consequence, many of these are Mirror Dungeon enemies. 96. Ida. Apparently she used to be far nastier, at least when the old sanity was a thing. She has a railway version, which is more than we can say about any of the others. It is still piss easy since it is line 1. 95. The Tech Liberation Alliance. Compared to just one boss and their minions, it's 4 slightly beefier minions instead. They keel over and die in a single turn most of the time, especially an MD. 94. Oofy Director. This encounter can very much just be solved with P, enter. It's part of that long slog of encounters that gets us to the basement of Wuthering Heights, but otherwise is a stepping stone. 93. Smee, the Twin Hook Pirate boss. They do little to nothing, especially as by the time we reach them in the fight, everyone's SP is so high that she is just getting nuked. 92. Guido. Apparently gave people trouble under the same old SP system. I guess he's 3 cantos in? Not much else really. If he dies, the encounter solves itself real fast. 91. Shi Huazhen. Moving to Chinese-flavored stepping stones in progression, this fellow's a blip on the radar, more so even in spring cultivation. 90. Shi Xijing. As above, so below. 89. There's more to this fella, at least in having dead rabbits, but Isabella definitely deserves better treatment than this. 88. Wang Qingshun. As with the rest of the higher-up candidates, however, has more horrifying minions. 87. Same as with the above. Nasty, but otherwise easy. 86. Shi Yihua. As above, nastier ads. 85. Josephine. Not actually that bad. Wuthering Heights enemies are just a little nastier. She has a stagger cheat that can catch you off guard. 84. Hindley. Has his normal chump version and his furry version. The latter will keep coming back up in future fights and can be a little worse than expected. 83. Chroma. She's got 2 phases, is early enough to not be that troublesome, but has a railway version that basically plays the same. On the off chance that you lose a clash against her, you can deal out some notable damage. 82. The King Trash Crab. Respect the crab, but also if you just rush down the crab, you can end the encounter prematurely. 81. Santata. He has 1 threatening attack and comes after a long gauntlet of trash. Just don't get in the sack. 80. The Boingi Emperor. Surprisingly, the other April Fool's stuff isn't counted here. Weird. Anyhow, this thing is a joke and falls over. Everything else before this is just that much more of a joke. 79. Nicolina. She actually has an execute attack. If you get chipped too hard and it hits you, she just erases you, which is pretty funny, especially in the trio fight later. 78. Pink Shoes. It's an MD stepping stone a lot of the time. The next few are about to be that too. 77. MD slop with Rupture. 76. MD slop with a side of Whale. 75. MD slop with Tremor. 74. MD slop with Charge. Does have a railway encounter. 73. MD slop with Bleed. Also has a railway encounter. 72. The single easiest MDE pack when available. Always take this on floor 15 for an easy clear. 71. MD slop with Burn. 70. MD slop with Poise and Bleed. 69. MD slop with Alcohol and Tremor. You get the idea for quite a lot of these abnos. 68. As good as Sunshower is ever getting without building an entire team to baby him. 67. Back to less MD slop, I suppose. This one is at least a railway encounter and can ruin your day if you want a low turn. Having unbreakables goes quite the distance. 66. The other shooty man. It's fun to see him pop up in the railway, but unfortunately, he is part of one of the easiest railways. You can jump him pretty bad since he requires kills to do anything meaningful. 65. Sleeping Bag is, well, thematically cool and all, but unfortunately, it's just break some ribs and tear the face off as the gimmick. It's a rather easy fight in the easiest railway. 64. 400 Roses is the finale of that specific railway, and yet, it's a pushover. If you take all the defensive buffs, it can't kill you. If you take all the offensive buffs, it chokes and dies in a few turns tops, even with its extensive HP pool. 63. Spiral of Contempt. Can at least catch you off guard and deal meaningful damage to your sinners if you aren't paying as much attention, especially in locking sinners away rapidly. 62. Papa Bongi. Is this far up the list because he can take more than a turn or two if you fuck up your targeting, and he actually gets to use his coins? Otherwise, yeah, I don't 100% remember why I placed him this high up. Maybe it was KKKKK. 61. Heathcliff the Heartbroken. I cleared this at around 2 AM in a marathon stream all the way through Canto 6. Terrible way to experience it. He wasn't exactly a challenge though, just nastier than expected. 60. Everyworld. This is shorthand for the finale of Canto 6. You kinda just get too much leeway and a lot more spectacle instead. It's a long fight, but otherwise not an especially difficult one. 59. Nelly. I admittedly had more trouble with this one because I let her evade for that extra skill slot. You should just offset her evade and suddenly she's a pushover. 58. Ren and Sora. This fight is hard to clash out at first, rather it seems threatening at first, and then it plays itself. The difficulty in this fight is not getting emotional and not being able to read jack or shit. 57. Albina and Ren. It's a funny fight, since it's very difficult to fuck up. As long as you deny Ren his poise by hitting the right skills, and don't slam headfirst into Albina's ×20 passive effect, you should be perfectly fine. 56. This is the last night at home. Lucio's concept is very cool as a textbook, but honestly, his ads are nastier than himself. You can ignore his whole mechanic with enough damage. 55. These two idiots from N-Corp should have been more threatening, but they kinda just keel over and die. Gubo has the issue of needing someone or something to actually die at his hand to have any real consequence. 54. Wei. I will not lie to you, I do not understand this fight, nor did I bother to understand it. I see horse, I run it down. He has some threatening skills and nasty effects if he can get them off, but otherwise he dies like a chump. That is to say, everything above is quite chumpy. 53. Im Gyong-yup. She dies quite easy currently. You can ignore her main swordplay mechanic in her normal version. The reflect trial is to come, and if it actually manages to make the swordplay relevant, it'll be a much harder fight. Rather, I'm expecting it to kick my ass tomorrow. 52. The Night Drifter has two versions, the one at Shichun, which is dirt easy, and the first time around. The first time around can catch you off guard with the Honglu focus. Even has a unique animation for killing them too. The full focus targeting is actually quite nasty in this fight's case. 51. Albina and Callisto. This fight during the Kanto is dirt easy and plays itself. The fight in the railway also plays itself since you're coming off of a previous fight with Shiromi at Bull SP anyway. Now then, the above mostly have the reputation of being easy enough or not really requiring any guide to understand and execute upon. The next few are the time waster tier. These may not be difficult by any stretch of the imagination, but they are troublesome in wasting a lot of turns that could be spent anywhere else doing anything else. 50. Gas Harpoon. This is an easy fight with dirt easy mechanics and free HP gates. Just a smidge maddening and wastes a lot of extra time in the mirror dungeon due to these sheer gates. 49. This fellow wastes like 3 turns minimum in being untargetable, otherwise needing ads to be killed in order to fully nullify its effects. Just more an annoyance than anything else. 48. Have You Become Strong is Rain Limbus's favorite Abno. It can tank a seemingly infinite amount of punishment per turn, letting the fellow showcase absurd damage numbers. 47. Baba Yaga isn't hard by any stretch of the imagination, it's just a long fight that ends with the enemy having more slots than you, with dirt slow animations. 46. Shock Centipede is annoying in refusing to die. At times, it seemingly kills itself at random. At others, it drags the fight on and on, especially the newer version that just keeps putting out more damage as it dies. 45. Wayward Passenger is not exactly a fun fight. The portals it spawns if you don't immediately lock it down are particularly annoying when you can't lock it down. Broken blades trivialize it. 44. Jamu. This one isn't exactly a hard fight, it's just a very long one. The adrenaline from after Lei Heng gets fully halted here, if not already dulled by the N-Corp duo. She's a spectacle fight, but ultimately you are putting down an old lady. 43. Kira and Matthias. These two belong in the time waster tier just for having 2 almost identical fights, followed by ridiculous grit and red points taking up way too much extra screen time. Part 3 of Kanto 9 is already insanely long. Matthias and Kira make up some of the worst of it. 42. The Time Ripper. Okay, this one was just placed here as a joke for actually just wasting time, but otherwise, forced phasing, multi-hit location, and whatnot make certain strategies not as viable, especially status-related ones. You'd think Tremor was supposed to be goaded in an intervallo about Tremor, but instead, by splitting multiple ways, Tremor is one of the single worst approaches to dealing with this guy. Not necessarily hard, just wastes a lot of your time for specific status effects. That finally takes us out of Time Waster tier, shorter than you'd think. Their difficulty is entirely in needing you to press P-Enter more than a few times, or otherwise waste your time every single time you run into them. From here on, we're in the annoying tier. Everything has some kind of gimmick that forces you to play with it. 41. My form empties isn't really a hard fight, so much as it is a damage check. That said, 10 bloody protection is rather maddening to deal with, and the collated skills of 3 minor bosses is also just annoying. None of the bosses hit hard or anything, but unless you kill them in a single turn, they instantly pop back up. While karma helps you kill them, it also helps them kill you, forcing you to play its mechanic whether you like it or not. 40. Brazen Bull. When you first reach here, you likely don't have any IDs that are particularly high level or high offense level stackers. Underdeveloped teams going into Brazen Bull is some level of screaming when you see struggling or hopeless against its bigger ramming attacks. This is one of the abnos that can give players a headache even if they've maxed out their sinners before Canto 4. While it's unlikely to end in a loss, it's still an annoying fight the first time you run into it since you are fast approaching the original level cap. Jun. 39. His gimmick is to beat your ass down if he has a lot of friends still alive. While you can try to stall it out so you can kill more of his buddies in one go, or just kill them before you hit his counter, getting slapped by rules of the backstreets is pretty inevitable in normal gameplay. You are generally forced to deal with his bullshits, which can indeed mince an ally for fun. 38. Rose Hunter. This is one of the first abnos to get unbreakable coins. Worse still, the unbreakable coin is on its main gimmick, in locking down an ally every turn. This thing also clashes quite well, and usually comes after a coin flip in the dungeon, causing most people to fight this fucker on the back foot. Canto 7 had some cruel design, this fella is a part of it. 37. Portrait of a Certain Day. This fella combines the pain of Railway 4 and some legendary time wasting together to form a rather annoying encounter if you don't burst it down quick enough. Each time it splits into portraits, you'll want to tear your hair out, especially in the Railway where turn counts is particularly dear. 36. Yin Prophets. This one has enough damage resilience to be annoying in a normal playthrough. Doing its mechanic helps you get past it, but requires you to light all the candles and eat a fair few unopposed hits. While its damage is unlikely to be high outside of specific circumstances, this is a fight that wants you to do its gimmick and isn't shy about punishing it otherwise. 35. Blubbering Toad. It isn't too much of an issue on its own. It is, however, an absolute bitch in the Railway encounter wherein it eats all your sanity before the other fights. That said, the main annoyance with this fella is the SP drain. Losing SP just to clash, then losing a lot of SP when you burst an eyeball has to be some of the most frustrating design in this game, especially as it isn't that the boss is doing an ungodly amount of damage to you, but rather the corrosions that follow will do that damage instead. 34. The Night of Despair. This fella just wasn't fun. A lot of unbreakables, a stalling based mechanic, and a lot of missions that demanded certain sinners or characters to not get hits. On top of that, you are supposed to end the fights with the Arcana beats, but on the hard mode version, you are weirdly able to rush her down before that even happens. The swords resurrecting is also just quite annoying and leads to some frustrations in needing to down them again. The Ruiner version of this fight is just so much better. 33. Drenched Gossipium. Justice for Drenched Gossipium. It should have totally owned and gapped Kira. No fucking way she breaks out of that and was smart enough to live on gamer logic. Drenched Gossipium gaps a lot of new players in not knowing what the hell to do about the unclashables, its ungodly drenched states, and of course the absurd amount of bleed output that puts many of the above bosses here to shame. This thing is an evasion check and will just body you if you can't kill it fast enough or can't avoid its output. I hate this thing. 32. This shape was part of one of the harder railways, and comes after a rather rough initial fight. Rather, it'll come at you when you are close to out of resources or gas. You are pretty much forced to play against this thing's gimmick, plugging the shape to nuke it down accordingly. If that ally can't clash well, or just can't handle the bullshit from the shape, you are going to be here a while as you rotate between sinners to clash this damn generator into this stupid shape. While it's not so ungodly a fight that is higher on this list, being more than 2/3 through the list means you left a rather strong lasting impression at this point. 31. Fey Lantern. It had a glow up during part 1 of Canto 9. This thing gives your team a rather nasty timer, and also begs you to finish it off rather quickly, else face the consequences. If your team gets fully charmed or lacks the firepower to properly take it down quick, you will get stuck there in rupture hell. The notes from Moses helping you fuck this thing over are nice, but only after you've been raw dogged by the Lantern a few times already. 30. Fabius is one of the Arknight collab bosses. While I'm likely overrating his difficulty here, he was part of one of those really annoying cultist encounters that resulted in a lot of fellas getting endlessly shanked. This fella is thankfully the weakest of the Arknight bosses. The memory of that collab is not that pretty, and I will not lie, this fight was part of the grinding out nature of said collab. 29. Part of the latest railway, the funny girl with scissors is a rather nasty encounter if you don't play to her gimmick, that of which involves losing clashes on purpose. The rest of her minions are the middle, a whole bunch of counter-heavy 6 envy resonance charged middle members ready to ruin your day. I actually brute forced this fight on my first clear, meaning we can ignore the mechanics to an extent, but man, there was rarely a fantastic or good answer in this fight. If you bought in the haste show, it's about time to get a few of them to die or get their shit kicked in. Just lose the clash against the girl when it's relevant. 28. The King in Binds. This fella on his own is actually rather okay. It's just the horde of NB Pekatula that lead up to him which are rather nasty. As for the king himself, he comes after you've blown a lot of your resources on the rest, leaving you rather mentally exhausted. That and 1 or 2 clashes missed and he'll fuck up your day, causing you to do the rest of that run up back to him. This section was a maddening part. I only cleared it a few hours before the rewards were to be taken away. I know I was definitely underprepared due to having started the game not long before, but still, this fight was hell. 27. Hohenheim. This fella has 3 distinct mechanics that contribute to a frustrating as hell experience, if any one of them are allowed to spiral out of control. SP theft and gain makes him clash better, and you clash worse every turn. HP shielding is particularly maddening in causing you to deal significantly reduced damage, alongside some clashable guards to stall even harder and let him build up an ungodly amount of poise. Speaking of, the extra poise gain plays in letting him do far more damage than you could expect on some unbreakables. This lets him fuck you over if the fight goes on too long, and he more than has the capacity to do so if he wishes. 26. Earl King. Not the final fight, but more so the fights where he can pop shields and spam allies out the ass. If you just don't have the affinities required to match the colors, you can and will just eat shit. He's one of the harder encounters due to being quite relentless compared to the final fight, and not having a downtime phase in the form of Catherine. It's harder to brute force him due to his ads being Josephine, Linton, and Hindley to boot. If you can't play to colors, accidentally activate a lot of his passives, he can and will eat you up for fun while you are unable to properly fight back, and just eat a lot of extra attacks. This guy gets to be a cunt in a time when unbreakable coins didn't exist yet. 25. Cassetti. He's a cunt for a variety of factors. 1. He has an ad gauntlet leading up to him. In the newest version, Sasha is a very annoying ad in particular, arguably more annoying than Cassetti himself is. 2. His main gimmick for all that extra offense level and healing is very difficult to stop without resulting to bind spam or a Durante. If you can't stagger him out of his special move or otherwise evade it, he just gets to heal up all the damage you dealt to him and more. He then gets to clash out his ass and roll your team over if you were underprepared for his bullshittery. Plus, he gets to be this high due to having an exceedingly consistent mechanic that we have to compensate for. 24. Bongbake. This is very much a pay attention, welcome to your first real exam. You can get staggered to hell and back, as well as just eat pure shit if you don't manage seeds or flub your clashes. Spice Bush is no joke, especially if you're doing it underleveled in your progression. A lot of the time you'll be forced to do mechanics and manage them accordingly. Failures to do so will get you killed by your own allies, that of which are getting jobbed by fully bloomed flowers. This is still a very cancerous encounter to get through if your damage is lacking. 23. Kong Chu, the Death Right King, the fellow that asks the Mao to cut you down. He is a rather nasty boss that had to be nerfed. He's consistently painful, able to grab extra adds and summons, as well as just blast through your clashes with unbreakables. The extra rupture from all kinds of sources just makes this very painful as it cuts through your defenses on every coin. You aren't really supposed to win this fight, just survive long enough to break through to him, then the fight ends. During that time though, you ought to hope that everything you've done up till now within the dungeon has added up to something, else you are going to get your teeth kicked in for a bit, even post-nerf. 22. Lucio and Valencina. Lucio is still a joke here, but Valencina just casually dodges your shits before countering back for fun. He can make things particularly stressful even while you have Virgilius alongside. Rather, you can expect a lot of K-Corp ampules to be eaten up without fail. He hunts down a single one of your sinners, going harder and faster into doing so until all of them are pasted. This one is one of the few real fights in the Kanto, and if they had made us face her off in the railway, I doubt many people would have gotten past section 4. The mechanics can feel like pure bullshits, even with the red gaze alongside, and that much is plenty of screaming. 21. Dongrang. This is the final exam version of Dongbake. If you didn't learn anything from her fight, you are going to get jobbed by the cow here instead. While there isn't the level of utility from some of the others above, there is the lack of safety nets since this is from earlier content. You don't really get strong Kanto buffs or K-Corp ampules, you are just in for pain if you can't handle the adds and high clashing attacks. 20. Bamboo Hatted Kim. Specifically, the Bokgak version is now a real nasty fight. If you are foolish enough to bring sinking of any kind, you are in for a bad time. He's purely negative skills, leading to some pure as hell bullshit with some of his higher clashing shites. If you can't melt him down with pride and slash damage, you are in for a world of hurt. If you miss the stagger opportunity before bones claiming. Rather, his bones claiming is quite ridiculous with the refresh, only getting more potent with that growing resentment, which you cannot avoid building up whatsoever. The unbreakables added make this extremely painful. Now, if he manages to win a clash with claim their bones, you can and will just die. The fixed damage is enough to just melt away any sinner if you're particularly unlucky. So yeah, him is almost always a threat, which is a horrifying prospect. 19. Ja Maganera. The quad trio requires you to do a fair bit of thinking, but largely follows the same script. Nuke Starbuck, nuke Ahab, pray that Queequeg doesn't smoke you in the meantime. If you aren't prepared for the sheer amount of pierce damage coming out of this fight, it will hurt like hell, especially in being unable to clash out Ahab once she gets her orders off. When you first run into her, dealing enough damage to avoid those orders is all but impossible, so you can and will just eat shit. The other two in the pair have the same such bullshit at their disposal, with Starbuck eventually being able to slam down a 5-coiner on you for ungodly damage, whereas Queequeg can shrug off stupid amounts of damage, as well as dole out a ridiculous amount of punishment as her HP lowers. Combine that with all the Yapping Captain's one-sided prey marked skill spam, and you're in for a rather nasty fight to juggle. 18. Sora is the less well-designed index fight. Rather, you can eventually redirect enough of her shit to get past her absurd offense level scaling, but in failing to do so, you will get your Sinner's skulls caved in, then sliced apart. These are very formidable opponents until Vesper comes in. Just when you think you have the upper hand, she bursts out Ego and Shin, more than enough to just stat stick you. Vesper coming in feels like the fight is being robbed from you. The main reason this fight is up here is just due to being unfair enough for that to all be necessary. 17. Then comes Rien. He's the final one in the annoying category because he's not some crazy wall or impossible fight or anything. He just requires you to pay full attention to every one of his skills, whoever the prescript target is, etc. He has a lot to account for and a bloody set of 9 coiners to last through. On top of all of that, he has an exceedingly high amount of durability, Shin, and all the extra bells and whistles to make him particularly maddening to deal with. As a Kanto finale boss, he isn't the single hardest one, but is definitely annoying enough to make it this far through the list on his own merits. The Railway version is definitely supposed to be harder, however, as we're coming in with plenty of resources, SP, and build-up, he kinda gets smoked a lot easier. From here on is the Pain tier. All of these have given me some kind of genuine pain for some reason or another, and many others have had to ask about their sanity when running up against some of these. Starting out, we've got 16. Ebony Queen's Apple. The Kanto 9 version will kick many people's asses due to ridiculous stat boosts and the sheer amount of rupture going out. You can and will eat total shits because of being unable to clash due to bind, losing clashes you could win due to attack power up, and of course, getting done in by all that excess status eating your sinners alive. All that included with having a bunch of damage conditionals. The Audacity and Unbreakables makes this thing rather ungodly. Anytime I run into the revamped version, I groan. 15. Same with this fuck-ass Moth. This thing applies a stupid amount of burn, flashes damn high, and has some annoying as hell resistances. If you try to grind this fella down and outlast it, you will get killed by burn. If you try to burst it down with unopposed shite, you will die to burn, and slammed into with high hard-hitting attacks. Just all that true damage will likely hurt like hell, and your lack of sinners for the story version of this encounter is screaming. On top of that, it has some healing, and of course, unbreakable coins, and you can see where everything goes horribly wrong. 14. This stupid fish. Everything hurts like hell. Blind Obsession is an AoE that hits like a truck, forcing you to deal with the flotsam if you want to avoid dealing with that shit. Even then, if your damage isn't enough or your speed is too slow, heck, if that paralyze levied onto your party is giving you hell, yeah, the amount of information screwed over by that paralyze makes this really damn annoying. The flotsam keeps spawning, causing you to keep dealing with it. The paralyze that turn after the first makes it so painful to handle due to all the power loss. Just this fuck-ass fish, man. If it ever gets a future glow-up of Unbreakables, we're dying. 13. Sign of Roses. It used to be a pushover since you could just one-side bully it to oblivion, but now it can fight back in rather annoying fashion. All the roses spawning need to be taken out to effectively fight this fuck-ass sign-off. The durability of this thing is underestimated and is far more painful to handle in MD than you may initially think. Fortunately, that's like the only spot you need to deal with it for now. When that Bokgak comes around, I am not looking forward to what we'll be dealing with. 12. Dulcinea. This is also where I'd put the Blood Fiend trio, so let's talk about those two encounters real quick. Original Dulcinea is hell because of her insane defenses and potentially hard-hitting adds. She buffs them up and they can tear your sinners apart. You need to juggle sliming them out and landing damage on her in order to whittle down her HP. She of course has the railway version of this fight too, making matters worse. To further add onto your woes, the durability is protection and cactus effects at the same time, leading to an ungodly amount of bleed going out. If enough adds die, she will throw out some of her bigger skills too. All in all, she's got some madhouse effects and skills that ensure she is rather tough to take down. As for the trio version, she's buffing both Nicolina and the priest, leading to some annoyingly hard clashes and hard to shake off bleed. This is the case where Nicolina can actually execute someone if the fight goes long enough, and you don't nuke her out like Starbuck. The priest, having a lot of durability alongside Dulcinea, makes for a rather nasty combination when all three of the Blood Fiends are allowed to go quite ham. 11. The Roach Emperor. You need to read. This is a fight you cannot brute force by any stretch of the imagination. You gotta manage roaches, clashing, and all manner of madhouse ungodly effects that stand in the way of you finishing off the Gregor in front of you. The excision coins from the boss are several levels of screaming, since if you forget to redirect any of Virgilius' skills away from those later on, you will just get destroyed. It's an unforgiving fight if you don't bring some of your very best with you, and can 100% fall apart at any given moment if you fuck up a single clash. 10. Last Night. This was one of those fights that had to get nerfed. The freeze effects were a maddening kind of hell that causes you to fight a lot more passively. If you don't, you get frozen. The knight gains power and you get destroyed. Since this thing came out during the Heisho season, wherein all the cool shiny toys everyone has leveled is working with counters and clashable counters, the Last Knight punishes those heavily and caved in many teams. You are forced to play to the mechanic, and even when you do, it's not perfect. You gotta bring some defense skills or clashable defenses to avoid freeze and alternate between to grind things down. If he ever gets one of your sinners frozen, they are just gonna die. Painful fights, deserving of this category. 9. Sancho. Fast, brutal, and unforgiving. Sancho, when you first reach her, is stupid strong. If you don't have a Musou or Yi Sung on hand to Crow's Eye or Chain of Others, else if you don't have any way to tie her down and suppress her, you are eating shit. She will bleed out your team, resist a good chunk of damage, blasts out constant big attacks, and has multiple phases and patterns. If nothing else, Kanto 7 managed to dump out many difficult boss fights. Sancho is one of them. Worse still, the LCA Bokgak version. That one is just a sheer damage race that you can and will lose. 8. La Mancha lands Don Quixote. This is a long slog of a fight that feels like a proper end to a Kanto. Several painful phases, big spectacle, insane amounts of bleed, and devastating unbreakables. You are paddling upstream for most of the fights until Dawn finally gets her buffs, and even then, everything can still go wrong up until the last minute. A lot of people on launch wanted to cheese this fight due to its sheer difficulty. Unfortunately, the cheese is rather antithetical to the Kanto's message. Instead of having a found family that Dawn can now bond to and protect, why the fuck are you making her solo this fight? 7. Arya. Rather Shiromi. This fight is several levels of bullshits. The worst of it is all manners of fixed damage. Burn, bleed, poison, etc. Crits, fixed slash damage after attack, blade trails, all manner of pain that you cannot mitigate, causing this fight against her to be a DPS rush. Only one of her worst fights is in the Pinky Corridor, wherein she has many HP and shield gates that then recover her shield. You are DPS racing without a good way of staggering her, meaning you can't effectively amplify your damage in quite as well a manner as you might imagine. Couple that with the low amount of sinners you gotta manage the fight with, and yeah, she's an absolute bitch. If you don't have some kind of healing, your teeth can and will get kicked in. 6. Leyheng. He may be my punching dummy for every newly released ID, but that doesn't discount him as a fight. Rather, he's a very strong measure of what makes a good plan or good fight to begin with. If a team can withstand the pure bullshit that is the uncle with a gunblade, he can take on almost any encounter in the game. This fight is hard even with the free stagger bar removal service at the start. He is building up status on you from the very start, testing you, slowly getting serious. He has a few HP gates and rather painful ones at that. He can deny you the one stagger that you are owed. If you don't get that stagger, you will have to rush down 2000 HP with his sanity capping out and his clashing at its peak. You are going to be in for pure hell. if you don't get to capitalize on the stagger, it doesn't hurt his damage later either, meaning you can and will eat pure shit if he gets off his big AoE. There's such a stupid amount of damage weighted behind it that even post-nerf it can still kill a sinner or two. Now, if you fuck up that specific clash, you die. Plain and simple. Multiple sinners get turned to mush, your new guys don't have enough sanity to rush down his HP as effectively, it's time to get splattered against the cobbles. 5. Mayors. Outside of the Dark Flame cheese, that of which is locked behind while PP, she is painful to fight. He has Seaborn minions as adds, some of which can deal a stupid amount of damage. Nervous Impairment hurts like a bitch and staggers your allies. She gets 10 protection, is very damn sane despite her distortion, and yeah, has pretty much all the cards in her favor. She also has healing, shield, and coin power buffs from unique mechanics, just pain on top of pain on top of pain. Anyhow, she can stagger you to hell with nervous impairments, leading to the Seaborn swarming your sinners, all while sitting pretty and healing up her buddies. Genuinely fuck this boss. I never do this boss properly, always with Dark Flame cheese to push through all that shielding and skip the mechanics. I feel sorry for anyone who had to deal with her properly. 4. That chud-ass dragon that I hate. Unfocused volley counters, burying a wedge, the Heisho Lord in the stomach, some harsh clashing requirements, a DPS race against an AoE spamming cunt. Needlessly high durability, recovering body parts rupture out the ass, pure insanity. The offense power of this dragon is stupid and difficult to fully offset due to a lot of it being in rupture. It doesn't help that the Heisho pack are there to kick your teeth in too. Rather plain and simple to explain, I suppose. Funny enough, that does make it really easy to understand why you are dying to it. 3. Butterfly of Entangled Lives. This thing has 25k HP, the most of anything outside of the Mirror Dungeon, by memory at least. Depending on the debuffs you pick for it, you could be in for hell. You have to play to this thing's gimmicks if you want to be able to damage it at all. You get an ungodly amount of extra damage this way and none without. The full extent takes 10 turns to do. The upkeep of the buff requires you to hit that backline with main targeting of coins, incentivizing higher coin counts. The annoyance is that a lot of the new IDs released this season have attack weight based conditionals. With the backline there to soak the AoEs, they don't get their single target damage off, leading to things stalling out a lot more than they should. The hell that is trying to Furiosa this thing is just sheer pain. Anyhow, the fight grinds you down, eventually deals a ridiculous amount of damage in Unbreakables, and requires you to have excessive amounts of bursts ready to go ham. Without any of that, the fight gets close to borderline impossible, even with heavy amounts of healing. Those stacks will just continue escalating without any maintenance, and you will just start exploding. 2. Rufo. The original isn't so bad. The Reflect Trial is severe levels of pain in comparison, forcing you to play to the appropriate composition or bust. She has assist defending meat shields, plenty of protection, a complete and total lack of stagger, several gimmicks we cannot ignore, respawnable adds, a huge HP gate that's unmerciful in the way of also clearing status, and there's just a big status explosion at the start of phase 2. All that added with the sheer brutality of her going completely ham and tearing our sinners apart with unfocused volleys and unbreakable coins. While you can mitigate a lot of it with the right composition, you can still fuck up and eat shit, especially if you don't have the stuff the game developers are prescribing you to make use of for this Reflect Trial. 1. Ricardo. Our first permanent Reflect Trial. This one is not intended to be cleared by much else but the prescribed composition. Ricardo hits back stupid hard while having some horrifying amounts of durability. The damage only increases as the fight goes along, and his stacks on your sinners grow. While you can reduce the stacks, you don't have the way to reduce them quite as well as you may imagine. Add on top of that, there's the counters and percentage damage. For every stack of that unique debuff, some skills straight up deal percentage HP damage. The Reflect Trial status limitations go real far in making many strategies far less optimal to boot, harming both the teams you would bring in here as well. You do not get a free win by bringing the middle and Heisho this time. You would with the ring, then Index with Rufo. But here, you gotta fight tooth and nail, roll it out, and outlast the fella. Just pain on top of pain on top of pain. If we look back at the criteria from the start of the video, is the fight consistent? Can you follow a strategy perfectly and the fight falls over? No. Is the enemy exceedingly durable? Does it have ungodly resistances or health that drag out a fight? 100% yes. The Reflect Trial limitations hurts. 9,375 HP is stupid. Is the fight dependent on a single clash? Can everything go entirely wrong if you flub a single clash? Yes, you can lose multiple sinners real fast if you fuck up clashes or let them hit you. Is there an opportunity to recover from mistakes? You have to play perfect to even have a chance. chance. This one is debatable, but in a lot of cases, the recovery is too hard. Do we get to stagger the boss? Surprisingly, yes. How difficult is it to upkeep mechanics? What upkeep? We reduce it by 1 if we hit, else, yeah, 1 skill to mass reduce and that's it. Can we skip mechanics? No, we kinda can't skip anything, Ricardo throws at us. Does the boss have damage gates? Yes, as a reflectile, he stops and brings out the clown car that is the boys. Any other miscellaneous bullshit that we have to deal with? Yes, reflectile tribulations and limitations. Essentially, Ricardo has a next to perfect score here, mostly thanks to those reflectile limitations. All that said, thanks for tuning in. This script is ungodly long. It really goes to show how much content we've gotten in Limbus, huh? No doubt I've probably missed an encounter or two with that much around. If you enjoyed the video, like it below, and if you want to see more Project Moon content, subscribe to the channel. You can go further beyond by donating to Ko-Fi or Patreon like these two, Artie and Dope. Otherwise, we're still in the middle of Pride Month, so APR is currently going strong. I've got at least 2 events left to take part in, so you can catch me in those towards the end of the month. Nonetheless though, thanks for listening in and using me as second monitor content. Appreciate it.